All right, we are officially streaming. So thank you all for being here. So it being 2:03 on Wednesday, March 13th, we will officially call the Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health Advisory Board to order. So we'll just start with a roll call vote of voting members. So we'll go Boylston.
Sarah Barrett, Board of Health, present.
Great. Southborough,
Present.
Westborough.
Jen Sullivan, present.
Okay, and Isabella Northborough present. All right, so we're gonna get started quickly just with a few agenda items, but we do have some guests, so I will introduce everyone. So we have Rich and Mike from MHAB, and they will be talking all about IMA, so we'll get started with that soon. And then we also have Sam from the North Central and Metro West Field Training Hub, and you guys will be introducing yourselves at the end of the meeting. All right, so just so we're all on the same page, so primary and alternate voting members. So Northborough, we just updated our voting members. So I am the primary member, and our Board of Health member Lisa Johnson is our alternate voting member. So I just wanted to go around the room, each town, to share their primary and alternate, just so we're all on the same page, just for future meetings. So Boylston, which one of you is primary and which one's alternate?
Anne Marie is primary
Okay.
and I am alternate.
All right, perfect. Southborough.
So I'm the primary and Safdar Medina is the alternate.
Okay, and Westborough.
I'm the primary and Maria Gonclaves is going to be the alternate.
Okay, all right, perfect. So I will update that and we will have that. And then the other thing, so we meet Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Is that working for everyone? Some people have recommended to do 1 p.m. a little bit earlier in the afternoon. Are there any thoughts? What would work best?
Moving forward, I will not be able to make 2 p.m.
Okay.
There's a weekly department head meeting now at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Got it. What time do you think would work best?
I think it actually a different day altogether. Tuesdays would work best for me. I'm not sure about anyone else. Tuesdays are late day here, but anytime basically on Tuesday would pretty much work.
Any other thoughts from the board?
It's very difficult for me to do anything before 11 a.m. So it's not necessarily the day of the week, it's more the time. I prefer noon going forward.
Okay.
I'm flexible. Anne Marie.
So Tuesdays during the day is when we generally have our Board of Health meetings. So that's not great for us, although I don't like the 2 o'clock time because of pickup time. So
Does Thursdays work for anyone? Thursday at like say 1?
I could do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me take a quick look if I have any standing meetings. I could do 1:15 on Thursdays. I have a standing meeting, unfortunately, that lasts.
Do we want to say 1:30, Chelsea? Would that fit your timeline?
That's great.
With
Does that
pickup
work?
though?
What was that?
Would that work with Chelsea with pickup?
Yeah. Yeah, I just need to be out by 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna move this to Thursday at 1:30, and I can send out another invite. Do we have to formally vote that?
No.
No. Okay. Thanks, Chelsea.
Yeah.
All right, so we are all set. Any questions about the meeting?
So, but I think I don't have a question about the meeting. Sorry. I do have a question though, because currently we don't have a chair.
Mhm.
So I think we need to deal with that so that we can run meetings. Because Kristen was chair and Jen, I think you were vice chair. So I think we should probably figure out who's running the meeting.
That would make sense. So Jen, as vice chair, would you be interested, or I can take on that role? It's up to you.
It's completely fine either way. I'm thinking since you actually are the host town, that you probably should run it.
Okay.
I agree, and I think you've done a nice job of organizing the meetings since Kristen's left. So I think I would be supportive of that as well.
So I nominate Isabella Crusoe to be our chair for this Greater Boroughs Chaparral.
Yeah.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, perfect. All in favor?
Roll
call.
roll call. Jen Sullivan, yes.
Chelsea Malinowski, yes.
Anne Marie Muckenstrom, yes.
Perfect. All right, so moving forward, so I'm going to turn it over to Rich and Mike to do an overview of the IMA. So last time we met, December, I think 12th, we kind of, or 13th, we did a deep dive. Rich shared his screen. We talked like page by page. So Rich, I don't know where exactly you want to start, or if we want to start with questions, but I'll leave it to you two.
Sure. Thanks, Isabella. So hi, everyone. Good to see you all again. You know, you're right. About 2 meetings ago, we did a deep dive. I shared my screen, went through all the different paragraphs. I think everyone's seen it at this point. Happy to do the same thing or answer questions. I know Chelsea and I have been talking about a couple of questions here and there. But if there are other questions or if there's things we need to discuss, I'm happy to join in that discussion. Not much has changed since that meeting. I think it was December 13th. The only thing that materially really changed in the IMA was based on the feedback of the group. We changed, how the governance board would vote and how a quorum would be recognized. So before and in your current agreement that's in effect, it was by majority, I believe. This goes to a supermajority, which basically means that every town needs to be present and every decision needs to be unanimous, which is certainly a change from what you did before. But that seemed to be the direction that the board wanted to, or the group wanted to go. So we made those edits to the agreement, and that's what's, in the current draft. But other than that, the changes weren't material. There were some stylistic things and additions, but that was probably the major change. So with that as a background, I'm happy to answer questions or engage in any discussion or go through it if it's helpful for that. So let me know.
So Isabella, if you don't mind if I can jump in. So thanks, Rich. So I guess supermajority for me was a different definition. I didn't realize that meant unanimous. I thought supermajority meant that if we added a fifth town, then it would have to be a supermajority on that. So I'm not in favor of doing unanimous and having requiring every town to be present. We already have to have 3 to have a quorum. So I think I misunderstood our conversation in the last meeting, and I would like to go back to the way we were doing it before.
I agree. We have a hard time coming up with our 3. So I don't think that would work for us at all.
Yeah, I'll just say there's no right or wrong answer. Some of the smaller groups, and I would consider you guys a smaller group with being just 4 towns, have done unanimous. Some have done just majority. And some of the bigger groups have done it differently as well. There's really no right or wrong answer. It's just what the preferences of the group and in the region and how they want to be governed. If they want to make sure that everyone's present and everyone has a voice when they're deciding issues, then the unanimous is the way to go. But if you guys are comfortable with only having 3 towns present and a vote of 3-1 would basically pass anything you need to pass, you can certainly do that as well. It's just really the pleasure of the group. So I'm happy to fix it and go back to what we had before. It's just whatever you guys want. So just give me some direction.
The only thing I'd throw in here by a suggestion to you is that for purposes of making your hires, you might want to have it spelled out that everybody should. You might want to say everybody should be there for the final interview or for the final vote, And those you might want to have unanimous because there might be something offensive about one of your candidates to only one of you. And I saw that happen with my own group that I work with on the islands. We had one person who just was turned off by the interviewee. Everyone else loved the person. And she said, I can't work with that person. And that's the face that goes into your restaurants and your businesses as the face of your Board of Health, even though it's a shared person.
That
So,
makes sense.
so that might be the one exception. You might want to carve out, except in the case of hiring, that should be unanimous.
So currently, and I think I've been on this since almost the beginning, I don't know that we've ever been involved in the hiring process.
You will be. You are. These are your employees.
Oh, I'm just saying historically, we haven't
Right.
experienced that. So that's an interesting point. So would you be interviewing them in a public setting, like at one of our regular?
So what we did on the islands, I'll just take you through because it's
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
We've done it like 5 times now. We had a small subcommittee. It was the host community plus me plus one health agent. There's 7 towns involved in that group. There's the 6 Martha's Vineyard and the one Nantucket. We did the initial round, and we made sure that the host community was there, and it was actually it's Dukes County is the host, and it was the county commissioner was there because she's going to employ the person. It's her HR department. And it was me as the shared services coordinator and one of the health directors. Then we conducted 4 interviews and advanced to a final interview process in front of the entire committee. And then there was 2 interviews took place, and then there was a unanimous vote for one.
And that was in a public meeting. The last.
Yes, the last one is. The first one, no. And the reason you keep it small is so that you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
You understand that anyway from real life.
Yeah, so in your case, you could have a subcommittee of 2 members do interviewing, like screening, or have 1 member do it, and then, advance the final group to the full 4-member committee in public hearings, in a public meeting, excuse me.
So, Jen, you have a nurse that you use through the Boroughs funding, right?
Which is going to be ending June 30th.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that, but can we just walk through that? And we, to my knowledge, we work collaboratively with him, but we don't necessarily utilize his hours. Correct. So how do you feel about it having to be let's say you were replacing him July 1st with that role, and I don't know what the plan is, but let's just say that's the scenario. How would you feel about it having to be a unanimous vote when you're really the only one using that employee?
That's a good point. So I think part of the reason why we're doing that is because we're hiring them outright.
Okay.
But I am still going to be requesting nursing services, and I'm still probably going to be the only one that needs it. I'm not sure if Northborough is going to need nursing services.
Yeah, we absolutely still will.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to share on that as well. But yeah, no, that probably unanimous probably doesn't make sense for me.
So can we put in there that the board would vote on whether each hire would be required to come to the board? Because like for me, if Jen's getting 8 hours of nursing through the Boroughs and she's solely using it, I don't need it to come to the board for an interview. It's her, she's using the resource, she's managing the person, and we're not, I mean, clearly they collaborate with the other nurses in the Boroughs, but I'm not getting a service from them. So I think it needs to be a case by case basis if we're going to require unanimous votes.
Okay, so now on the islands group, and this is the reason I did the islands group, is so I could talk about stuff like this.
Great.
On the islands group, our inspector has never been to Nantucket in his entire life.
Yep.
nor will he professionally ever go there. They don't need him,
You should.
but they voted on him. Because you just never know. You just never.
But that's one of 8. So 7 other districts are using that.
All 8, right, but all 8 of them vote on everybody, because you don't know, as we sit here right now, that we're not going to have another COVID, and that shared nurse is not going to be in Northborough and Southborough
I
and
get that,
Eastborough
yeah.
and Westborough.
So my point, Mike, is we meet quarterly, and to get us together sometimes is difficult. I mean, I'm sure with your 8, it's difficult. And I would hate to pursue a hire that's really, and I get, hopefully COVID never happens again or any scenario like that. But I think, look at what happened with COVID. We didn't have the boroughs, and we still collaborated with 7 towns to run clinics, right? So I actually am, I get what you're saying, but I would rather have it be a case by case basis and have the board decide if they want to utilize our mechanism in the IMA to have a unanimous vote and do a public interview process.
That's fair. It's up to you guys.
I mean, well, that's just me. I'm one of 4, so I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Would that be written?
So it would be written, nothing like that. It would just say, it would just say all decisions are made by a majority, but, keep in mind, in practice, these are guardrails, right? So if the advisory board decides that they want to make a decision and make it, and decide an issue unanimously, you can do that. You would just do that at one of your meetings. So for example, if you said, well, we're going to be hiring a new shared services coordinator. Okay. But we want, we would like to make a motion that, the new hire be a unanimous decision, for the group. You could all vote that, and then you could go through that process.
So that could be what Chelsea's saying about, an individual basis on.
Yeah,
okay.
case by case basis. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
All
keep
right.
in mind though, without anything in writing, there's nothing to hold people to that. So, if the group then says, no, we just want to do a majority, then you're stuck with the majority. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's nothing, I mean, I could put in the agreement if you wanted that, certain positions, require a unanimous vote, such as you name them.
I think that would make sense. So like, let's say that we were looking to replace somebody who really truly does work in both.
I would say the shared service coordinator is a good example.
Yeah. Then yes, that absolutely should be a public interview and unanimous. Now, sometimes if you could do, I mean, usually when you hire somebody, you want it to be unanimous, right? Like, so I get that's what you guys are getting at. And I totally appreciate that. I think sometimes what happens is you could have a 3-1 vote and then you re-vote to make sure that it's unanimous in the end. Like right? Like you definitely have that happen. But I would be in favor if it's actually a truly shared position that it should be unanimous.
Yeah. And I think only to Mike's point is that, when we're setting these up as a lawyer, when I'm setting this group up, I'm not thinking of a termination date for this group. My goal in setting this up is that, this agreement is what it is for the next 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And we don't have a crystal ball. And this is not just for this type of work, any type of legal work I do. We don't have a crystal ball, and we can only, we plan for what we, for longevity. So to Mike's point, you could consider it on a case by case basis, which is completely fine. It's just whatever you guys want to do. So you may not see that right now. And I've had some groups, we've already amended some groups IMAs in different areas where they were kind of, short-sighted and got really, really specific in the services they were providing in Exhibit B. And then they were like, this is great. We've got all this money. This is working so well. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, we really can't, because we pigeonholed ourselves with this specific language. So that, I think that's the only, the only issue. But like I said, you can always make something unanimous. So I'm happy, if you want, hearing the group correctly, and you guys tell me, because I'll do whatever you want, is you want to go back to majority. for a quorum and for any vote. I can put in there specifically that for the position of a shared services coordinator, that needs to be a unanimous vote. And then leave it at that. If that's what you guys want, or I could add language that, see, this is where I get, being the lawyer, I get a little concerned about, interpretation. So if I had said something like, for any shared position, it needs to be unanimous. Well, personally, I could, if I was town council for any of these groups, I would make an argument that every position is shared. The whole thing is shared. We're sharing everything. And maybe I get 10 minutes worth of some, service for a year, or I get 8 hours a week, but the whole concept is shared services. So I would
Could you
say that
say, could you say, the board has the ability, and it's not gonna be worded this way, but the board has the ability to vote prior to filling a position to require a unanimous vote. So like,
Yep,
so let's
absolutely.
say. Okay.
And I probably worded very similar to that. So that was
Oh,
pretty good.
What do people think about that?
I am comfortable with that. I think going back to majority for quorum and voting and normal things like that makes a lot of sense, and including that language. I don't think, this group has ever had a problem, but just having that language if we do want to have that option to all vote and have a public meeting for
I agree.
Sarah, Anne Marie, any thoughts?
I agree.
No, I agree as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Alright,
so what I'll do is
perfect.
I will go back, well, I'll wait till this conversation's finished, but I will go back and I will make those edits and track changes and give you a clean copy so you can see exactly what I changed.
Right.
In the agreement. It won't be much, be a couple sentences, but it'll be significant.
Mhm.
Other questions outside of that about the IMA or the process or anything?
I have another
Sure.
question, and it's related to actually the shared service coordinator position. So it's section 4 of the draft. And I think it's, I think it's because with Kristen leaving, Isabella taking over, and I think Isabella's doing a great job. So this is just a what if scenario. It's not anything against Isabella, but let's say Isabella chooses to seek other employment somewhere else or take another position within the town. What risk do we have there with not having a shared service coordinator being able to be employed by someone other than the host community?
I'm not sure that I understand that last part of your question.
So let's say Isabella leaves. We don't have anybody. Let's say we don't have anybody in Northborough that is going to be the shared service coordinator, even in the short term until we figure out what we're doing, and we want to use an outside company to be our shared service coordinator. Or let's say that Southborough has an employee that has, well, this is not going to happen, but let's just say that they have 8 hours a week that they can dedicate to that role. That goes against the IMA because it's technically a Southborough employee, not a Northborough. So what risk do we have there? And what kind of language can we put in there so that there's flexibility if we need a short-term solution?
Okay, so before Rich gets into our conversation that we had 2 hours with the Ethics Commission yesterday.
Yeah, that's why we're chuckling.
Oh, I'm
mean,
like, why are they laughing at me?
Because you're the first time that Rich has had to confront this issue since we had a 2-hour meeting yesterday with ethics about the PHE program, because the Ethics Commission can't figure out what everybody's doing. But before he goes into his thing about that, I'll just tell you that right now I'm working with 3 groups that don't have shared services coordinators right now because they've had a turnover in that position.
Huh.
And I'm convening their meetings for them, and I'm getting everybody together, and I'm basically acting as a temporary and helping the groups to locate a shared services coordinator. So
you're the consultant example.
right, I would be and at no cost to you. MAHB has a contract with DPH to do technical assistance.
Okay.
And as part of our technical assistance contract, I'm kind of sent in as the troubleshooter when there's a problem like that. And I'm doing 3 right now, just so you know. So it's
Wow.
not unheard of. It's a great question, Chelsea, because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So would that be allowable with our current IMA, how it's written?
So I'm going to leave that to Rich.
Yeah. The answer is yes. So a couple of things. One, you always have a position higher up than the shared services coordinator, and that's the program manager. And that's always the director, the health director in Northborough, because they're the ones that sign on the dotted line with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the buck really stops with them. So they could always step in and take over as well.
If you had them.
Yeah. Well, that's a minor detail.
Okay.
Details.
Then, yeah, your shared services coordinator, and I'll get to your example in a second, Chelsea, because we did have a 2-hour conversation that made my head spin a little bit yesterday. But you could do that. You could convene a meeting and you can appoint someone shared services coordinator at any point. You can hire a consultant. You can bring in MHB, as Mike said. So I'm not too concerned about you guys going very long without some technical help. In terms of your example, because this is almost the exact sample we went over yesterday with the state ethics for about an hour, and we used just an inspector. So if you had an inspector that was employed by Southborough, and they want, pick up extra hours and work, be the inspector for the shared services, how can we make that happen? And it sounds like because we're doing these IMAs and not to get too legal on you, but because they're formed under Chapter 40, Section 4A, that there is a mechanism for that. And it's almost like you have to think about putting up a wall. So when that, like your assistant director, let's say, wants to be the shared services coordinator, when they're doing the shared service work, they're actually a Northborough employee, and they can't do any work for Southborough at that time. And then when they're doing Southborough's work, they can, and I might be butchering this, but my understanding is that they can do work for all the towns. And it doesn't present a conflict of interest, but they can get, so what the state ethics attorney, we kind of explained the program to her. I sent her off our template IMA, and we're working through this. But ultimately if your employee wanted to do this, they could get a written opinion from state ethics, and hopefully they'll all be educated on this. The attorneys that, you call up the attorney of the day and they'll send you a written opinion, that you can do it, and this is how you do it, kind of thing.
So in that example, then my employee on Southborough would have to be on Northborough's payroll and
Correct.
submit their 8 hours a week to Northborough to be reimbursed from the funding of Greater Boroughs.
Correct. And why this works is special language in that statute that I cited. They have to be employed by the host community. So Southborough couldn't employ the shared services coordinator because then you have the conflict of interest. It has to be that host community.
Got it.
So
I have a question for Isabella. Isabella, didn't we function with Kristen Black as the kind of shared service coordinator when we first were going? You were hired as the epidemiologist, so we didn't technically have a shared service coordinator for a while.
Correct. So yes, so Kristen filled that role. Now it's a requirement of the grant to at least have a part-time shared service coordinator.
Yeah, we've taken out the language, I believe, where it could be the director of the shared services coordinator could be the director in Northborough, health director in Northborough. I believe that's out of there. So these state ethics questions are very, very fact specific. And, that's kind of, as Mike's brought on to troubleshoot, I'm brought on to answer those technical assistance questions. So if you have that situation arise, whether it's an inspector, nurse, you name it, that's what we're here to help and point you in the right direction. Now that we have a contact at state ethics, it makes it much easier as well. So, and there are groups, especially in Western Mass, where we're seeing, there's just not a pool of employees out there. So we're seeing, people have dual, triple roles, Board of Health, shared services coordinator, part-time inspector. It's a bad law school exam question sometimes on state ethics. So, but they seemed open to it. They recognize that, from a regional standpoint, and this is where the state's going in a lot of areas, not just this area, but education, for example, special education. And they need these laws to kind of, and these rules to kind of catch up. So they're open to amending it, which is great. Sorry, I might have gone off on a tangent in a different direction, but
no, I think that was helpful. Chelsea, did that answer your question?
Yeah,
coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, I think um, it's a logistical issue.
Right.
And if we were in that position, I think it would be annoying to deal with.
If you were in the position, what you'd hear from us is that you should call the State Ethics Commission and and do it before you take the action.
Yeah.
They'll
right.
tell
Don't
you,
ask for
they'll tell you ahead of
forgiveness after.
they'll go as hypothetical as you want, as long as it's you that they're talking to.
Okay,
They won't talk to us about you.
got it.
And it was very difficult because we were talking to them about a specific group that they couldn't tell us what the group was, although we sort of figured it out, I think, on our own, but they couldn't tell us, and we know things about that group that were not what they were told by the group. So it was quite a call, quite a
Okay.
call. But the bottom line is, and you'll hear us say this at the upcoming program that you're all going to be hearing about in a minute, that if you have ethics questions, if you call the Ethics Commission ahead of time, they'll always steer you in the right direction. And if you mess up, and you mess up based on their advice, they will not ding you for it. And sometimes they might give some advice that another lawyer there might not agree with. So it's sticky. It's sticky.
Thank you.
Any other IMA related questions?
Remind me when we get review of what each town needs with this
So-
grant.
What you need to do to pass the IMA, or?
Well, no, after the IMA is passed and we decide what we want to do with the funding,
Mhm.
when does that happen?
So it would be around June,
So, okay, good. Because I was looking at our
May, June.
meeting schedule and I knew it had to be before July, obviously, but
You're going to
All
have to spend a boatload of money between now and July 1st. I want you to know that. I don't know how much money, Isabella, you're sitting on right now, but I feel like that commercial that's sitting on a gold mine, I think
Mhm.
you are right
Yeah.
now. And you're
Yeah.
gonna have to, you have to spend
Mhm.
seriously, and this is not like by law, this is by the fact that we have DPH facing budget cuts, and we do not want to be in a position where a cent goes back to DPH and DPH has to give a cent back to the state when they're saying that you're underfunding us to begin with. We look like liars then. So
I think we should probably have a meeting prior.
you need
Yep.
you need to have a battle plan for how to spend. I'm guessing it's several $100,000, Isabella.
Mhm.
And an easy way to spend it really fast that everybody benefits from is digitization of all of your records. It's very expensive, and you can do it once and start the program. And I think you have enough money in your grant for all of your towns records that you now have in that file cabinet behind you, Jennifer, that I'm looking at, for all of those to be on a disk and
Okay.
searchable. And we can help you plug into the vendors that do that for the program and all of that. But you need to be aware of the fact you're going to have to definitely meet a few times.
Yeah, so Jen, that was what I was gonna say, and the next bullet point was the updated allowable expenses. So a lot of regions are having a hard time spending all their money, so they Kristen's new unit, they created a document of allowable expenses for this fiscal year, which I can go over. But I definitely recommend meeting again before I think it's June, because we want to spend that money before June, the end of June. And then we'll have a meeting to discuss the fiscal 25 budget, fiscal year 25.
Perfect.
I'll
So
help-
schedule that sooner than
I'll
later,
help you
rather than
spend-
later.
Yeah, I'll help you with some spending ideas. I'm
Okay.
a
That's
very
great.
expensive friend to have, so.
Thank you, Mike.
Perfect.
That's great.
Perfect. So before I go into allowable expenses, are there any other IMA related questions? And I guess, Rich, can you just talk about the next step? So say that we, come to agreement once you edit the majority of the majority vote.
Yep. So I'm going to edit this. I'll send this to you in like an hour. And then, you guys, if everyone's comfortable with it, I think North Boroughs reviewed it through their administration. And I'm not sure if anyone else's town council or admins have reviewed it. If you have Mead Tallerman or KP Law, they won't have many changes, if any. They both have looked at these extensively over time. So, so next step is pass it out to your administrators and your attorneys. If there's questions, I'm happy to answer questions, talk to people. Then we kind of do a final draft, based on any feedback we get. And then once that's approved by the group, you go to your boards of health and select boards and get them to adopt it and sign off on it, and then you're done. And I'm here to help in any way throughout the entire process. Mike is as well. We've attended meetings with, town managers, comptrollers, HR people, lawyers, select boards and boards of health. So we can do anything you guys need us to do to help further the process.
Perfect. Thank you.
And the other thing is that this has to be in place before your next contract. I don't know whether or not that was made clear, Isabella, in the last meeting that they had, but
No, so I was under the
No.
understanding that ours expires at the end of June.
okay. But so in order to enter your new 3-year contract, the next contract's 3 years, you have to have everybody. Only people who have signed an IMA are eligible under the terms of the new contract, the way it's being written.
Well, we do have, when we have an IMA, just depending on when we sign the contract, it'll just expire and then we'll have a new one.
I don't know what your current IMA is, so that's why I don't know.
Yeah.
That I don't know. So
I'd get this in place before the new round of funding.
Okay, all right, so we will,
Start fresh with everything.
When is the funding?
I haven't found out when the contract is due or getting,
well, you're going to be
Okay.
getting. They're actually putting the contracts together this week, and they told us that they're going to be trying to get them out over the next 2 weeks to everybody. And then you can add towns, subtract towns. If you know of any towns in the area that are looking to join, and anyone has said to you that we might want to join your group, is there any way to do it? Let me know that if you could, and I'll see what I can do to help you to facilitate that.
Would they increase our funding if we added a town?
They probably will, based on the fact that they'll do an additional capacity assessment on that town and add that town's shortfall to your budget.
I don't know of anyone. I was just wondering.
And
We do potentially know of a town that would be interested in joining us.
What town is that?
Can talk to you offline. I don't want to,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Taylor, could you do me a favor? Could you private chat me that, because I'm talking to towns in your area, and it might be one that I'm talking to. Is there a chat function on here?
there is no chat on the Northborough live stream, sorry.
Will you email me then, hugo@mahb.org?
So given that information, I don't think we should wait. Like, I think we should try to move quickly, not quickly, but move steadily through this so that we're not bumping up against a June deadline and not having funding to pay payroll July 1st. So can we agree on a date that we want to hear back from any changes and then bring it to select board meetings and board of health meetings, just so that, because I know everybody has town meeting now and different schedules. So I just want to make sure that we give ourselves a deadline to get this resolved.
Sorry,
So-
Mike, just tell me your email one more time.
Hugo, HUGO, @mahb.org, just like
Thank you.
Associated Health Boards.
So once Rich goes back, he has time today to make those revisions. I will send it out to the group, assuming that no one else has any other questions or edits. That would be the final draft, and that would be sent off to each of your Board of Health, or I guess first Select Board, Town Council, and then just voted on by Select Board and Board of Health.
So Isabella, do you want to hear back from each of us by a certain date to make sure we don't need to meet on anything that town council had flagged?
Sure.
Because I'd rather town council review it and I think, I mean, we use Tallerman, and so hopefully we have councils who have already reviewed this, but just make sure that we don't have any changes by a certain date. So then we can start getting on agendas for.
Yeah. Do you want to say is 2 weeks enough time?
I would say less than that, but
Less than, okay, so let's say the 22nd, Friday. Reach out with any feedback from town council. I will send it off to Rich to make any final edits, and then we'll have that final document.
Sounds good.
So Isabella, I'm sorry, I'm a little dense here. What you're going to send us is what we need to bring to town council.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And then Sarah, if town council doesn't have any feedback, just let Isabella know so that we don't have to convene again prior
Yes.
to bringing it to our select boards.
And
then
what was
assuming-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then assuming that the select boards sign off on it and that your boards of health sign off at it, then I don't think we need to meet again on this and just have them sign.
Yep, so Sarah, the date was Friday, March 22nd. If you could get back to me with town council's edits
Thank you.
or if they have none.
Okay.
All right. Good with the IMA? Yes.
In the meantime,
Yeah.
if you have questions, feel free, if you think of something or somebody thinks something, feel free to reach out to me. Isabella will have my email on the email when it gets sent back to her, so.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rich and Mike. Feel free to stay on or leave, up to you, but thank you.
I'm gonna bolt, but let me just do my
Yes.
little plug, okay? So we have Saturday, well, this Saturday is in Holyoke. I don't think anybody's gonna want to go to Holyoke, but Saturday the 20th and Saturday the 27th of April. The Marriott Courtyard in Marlborough is the 20th, and the Clarion in Taunton is the 27th. We start with breakfast, and our program is Legal Authority of Boards of Health, which many of you have seen, but it always changes a little bit. That's Cheryl's big presentation. Then we're going to do public records, open meeting law, conflict of interest law, which is going to be very interesting after yesterday's call. First Amendment auditors, that's the folks that like to show up in town hall with the cameras and show up at your meetings with the cameras and try to get you to sue them so that, or try to get you to kick them out so that they can sue you. A very graphic presentation on that. It'll be disgusting, I promise. Green burials, updates and strategies on that. Updates from the Office of Local and Regional Health, how to conduct quasi-administrative and quasi-judicial hearings, liability protections for boards of health and staff, a case study of the Pilgrim nuclear waste strategies and updates, and then all things considered, what's coming down the pike, which will be a Cumberland Farms case in Braintree that's filed in Norfolk Superior Court, opioid abatement fund update and strategies, intoxicating synthetic THC products, the story of what went on in Chelsea where Cheryl couldn't get them to sue her no matter how hard she tried, and Brookline's SJC decision on tobacco that came down last week. So that's our program for this year. Very exciting and very informative for board members that you may sit there in a board meeting and say, why isn't our board doing something about that? And they might not realize that they should be doing something about that because they
And that was April 20th in Marlborough?
April 20th in Marlborough at the Marriott.
From what is it, 8 to 5, right?
8 to 4, yeah. Or 8:15 to 4. We serve you 2 good meals. Cheryl and I are both foodies, so we choose a good menu.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
If
So
you
I
have a flyer,
will,
if you have a flyer,
Yes.
that'd be great because I'd love to send it to my board members.
yep, I will resend out that flyer and it has the link and then it is an allowable expense through the grant. So Mike, how does that work? If South
so-
Boroughs Board of Health wants to join, would that be an allowable expense for the grant or?
Yes.
Okay.
It's yeah, everybody just check off. I think that there's a drop down on there that actually identifies your grant group that you're in.
Mhm.
Oh,
Just check that off and then your grant will get the invoice. And just show up, and if there's any confusion about payment, just show up and we'll work it out. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Really wish it was mandatory for all board members to attend. It's too
You know,
bad
the-
it's not.
School committee members have to attend a course within I think it's within 6 months of their election to a school committee, and I think that we should be seeing the same thing happen here because
I
some of the
agree.
board members don't know what they're doing.
We should provide
I agree.
babysitting.
Yeah, babysitting for the board members.
No, for my kids, so I can go.
I think your board members need the babysitting too, but that's beside the
No,
point.
my board members are good.
Mine are good too. My other town I worked in was not at all.
Well, Chelsea, I know that my wife is going to be at all of these programs doing the door. So if you have kids that you wanted to watch, she's a school teacher.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Great,
she'll keep them entertained. She'll make them work.
good. They need to.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rich and Mike. We will definitely reach out with any questions and we look forward to working with you again soon.
Okay, we'll see you. all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
thank you.
All right, so I know we're running a little behind and we have our train presentation, but just quickly, I want to go over the 4 kind of new additions to the allowable expenses for this grant. So the first one, they're allowing a consultant for opioid abatement funds, so a strategic plan, and that is basically, hiring a consultant to conduct a strategic plan to identify how to regionalize and use the funds in a regional manner, so within the greater boroughs. I know Kristen had mentioned that right before she left, so that's an option. Also, one-time logo apparel purchases up to $250 a person for the workers of the region. So that's an option. We already did CPR training equipment, so that was purchased with the contact tracing grant, so that's not something we need. And then there's a whole addendum of nursing supplies that I suggest looking at and sending me any, interest feedback, and we can definitely get a purchase ready. So I don't know, I recommend planning another meeting to talk about how to use it's almost, let's see, over $200,000 with Erin's salary that's no longer being paid because we're paying Salmon less. And we also, I think, put in that we were going to do a community health assessment, which was not the case for this year. So just thinking about these big ticket items and how we want to use this money.
Isabella, can we just kind of get a sense from all the towns if they'd be interested in doing the opioid survey? I mean, I know that's something that we all have to do, and that might be a good one that we can hopefully agree on if people haven't done it yet.
I know that we have the meeting next week, which is a 2-day conference regarding the opioid settlement.
Yep.
I plan on attending. I think that decision should be made after that, just to see what comes out of that.
Okay. So what is that meeting?
So that's the BSAS Opioid Abatement Fund Conference. It's I think the 19th and the 20th.
Okay.
And I can send that out as well. It's on Zoom.
Okay. That'd be great.
It's 4 hours a day, I believe, right?
I think so.
In the morning.
Okay. Has anybody done their survey yet? No.
No, not
Okay.
fully.
Yeah, no, we've got some feedback from our Health and Human Service survey, but I don't think it would be enough to be that. I don't know.
I'm just concerned that we have to spend this money by June 30th. So like the quicker we can make a decision on it, I just want to make sure that we have time to spend it.
So when I can send out an email with a follow-up meeting time, what would work best, do you think, like around mid-April? To meet again to talk about spending down the money?
I would say beginning of April.
I would say the 4th, April 4th, just to keep in line with our Thursday meeting.
Does that work for everyone? April 4th at 1:30 on Zoom?
Yes, that works for me.
All right, perfect. I will send out an email with a meeting invite as well. Perfect. So in that meeting, we will talk about the FY24 budget, how to spend it down. And then, again, start thinking about ways to incorporate, the budget for FY25 as we continue on. With that, does anyone have any other questions? I think one thing Taylor and I were talking about, I think getting some logo, clothing apparel would be great. I mean, it's $250 a person, and I think that's a good use of our funds. We had, merchandise way back in the beginning, and I think we could do that again.
Is it possible to have the Greater Boroughs logo and then the town you work for with that as well?
That is a good question. I can definitely reach out and ask. So it would be like Greater Boroughs, Westboro logo.
Right.
Okay.
If that's possible, I think that's a really good idea, Jen.
Okay.
Thanks.
I will ask. Any other? Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, I have a question. Maybe Anne Marie knows. Do you know if we received that survey?
No, I did not receive the survey.
I don't think I did either.
What survey are you referring to? So I think, so to use the opioid abatement funds, you need to just collect and solicit feedback from the general public about, or,
Okay.
have experience with substance use. So it's not a survey that's anyone was provided. So it would be us soliciting input. And that
Got it.
strategic plan would, be creating a survey or, doing focus groups and interviews like that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was a
Yeah,
little
no, that's
confused.
fine. All right, good to move on?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So I will turn it over to the North Central Metro West Field Training Hub. Sorry, it took us so long to get to your agenda item, but Sam, Carrie, and we have Rebecca.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for that introduction, Isabella. Isabella, how much time do I have? We have, sorry.
Honestly, it's okay if we run a little bit over.
Okay, okay.
10-ish minutes.
I have a few slides just to kind of give some people some visual, but I'll go through them quickly. I want to have a chance for everybody to introduce ourselves. And then I'm expecting that we'll have some questions from folks. So I just want to make sure that we are not running too tight against the clock for you.
That's totally fine. And you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, great, thanks. So hi, everybody. I am Carrie Janelle. I am the manager for the North Central and Metro West Field Training Hub. The state divided all the shared services groups into there are 10 field training hubs, and we each roughly have the same number of communities. So ours is 40 communities in 5 shared services groups. And what I want to do is we're going to do a quick introduction from each of us, and then I'll kind of show you the map. I'll show you a little bit about the DPH's vision for this and how this works, and then we'll go. So let me share my screen, which is always an adventure, even though I have been doing this for 4 years. I don't know why the learning curve is so weird, but I'm glad to hear somebody else laugh. So it means maybe it happens to them too. Yes, I see. Okay. Okay. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So
Yeah.
this first slide, I have our contact info, so both cell phone and email up front, because we want to be accessible to you all. You can reach out through with Isabella. We totally respect the relationship with the shared services group, but we also are happy to, take questions, and we want to be a resource for all the communities. So there's our contact info. As I said, we'll share this with Isabella so she can pass it out to y'all. So don't worry when I change the slide, which is not happening. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so me, I have worked in local public health since 2002. I'm a career changer. I kind of fell in love with it by accident and never turned back. I actually started off as a student working for the city of Cambridge when they were charged with developing a public health emergency preparedness region. I don't know if anybody else has been around that long that they remember trying to develop those public health emergency preparedness regions, or if I'm dating myself, but that was my first intro to the work. So since then, I have done a bunch of things: local, state, national, and local, regional, state, and national. We had a couple demonstration projects that I did funding with. So I'm an experienced program developer. I'm an experienced trainer. I think 2 highlights for my experience for this role is that I developed a local public health mutual aid agreement. And that meant going through and talking to 27 towns and making sure I understood exactly what the needs were, and then working with lawyers to communicate those needs and get a legal document that would solve the problems that they wanted. And then I worked with, I did the towns, my boss did the cities. We had 18 towns and 9 cities in our region. And I went out with each health director and did finance committee, board of health, town meeting, town council, whatever they needed. So I'm pretty well steeped in the things that come up in sort of systems for public health. And then the other experience that's pertinent is I worked under Kathleen McVarish for a number of years and managed the local public health training institute. So LPHI, which we know is navigating over to the train learning system. And I did course development. I worked with subject matter experts on all different kinds of things, from blue algae to substance abuse and misuse, to how to conduct a hearing. Did some work with Mike Hugo and so forth on how to conduct a hearing, and created courses for that. I'm an instructional designer, and I've worked supervising instructional designers and trainers and figuring out how to get content across. So that's what I bring. Oh, and I'm also a local Board of Health member. And so, I love this work. I'm bringing it to this, and I'm really excited to introduce our team too, because we really have a nice complementary group. Sam Menard, who we'll talk in just a second, is an experienced inspector, and I'm not an inspector. I'm a generalist. I'm trying to learn. And Rebecca Queenie is an experienced trainer, and she's done a lot of inspectional work, and she has industry experience training folks on how to go out to work in food service. So the three of us are set up to address your training needs as related to the new performance standards and meeting some of the requirements for shared services. Okay, Sam, you're up.
Well, very nice to be here and meet you all. Just a quick intro for myself. I've worked at local health departments for the last 6 years, Brookline for the 4 years before this position, and Newton before that. I have my MPH and my REHS. And I would say I have trained quite a bit of staff in those departments. Excited to work with you all. And really, we're here as a resource for all of you to reach out to.
Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I come with experience in the private sector and the public sector. In the private sector, working with third-party vendors in food service and custodial services and general building maintenance. In the public service, I have a lot of background in working with institutions in Massachusetts, and I look forward to training people in the field so that they add more value and add more value with their own professional development, and also to lead you guys to easy answers. We are happy to help you guys find answers as you navigate, working together as a shared service group.
Great, thank you. So quickly, I don't know how many times people have seen the blueprint, but I feel it's obligatory, right? So why are we here? We're here because of all of the work that special commission did for years, trying to, coordinate and identify the requirements for education and training standards. And part of it was the result from that was the creation of the field training hubs to increase the local public health training infrastructure. So as I said, I managed LPHI, and that was nice. It's a nice program. But it was really very much based on just-in-time training, a lot of awareness level training, and the efforts from the state are about trying to get beyond that awareness level training and trying to have it so that everyone has the same degree of knowledge. So Sam and Rebecca will be working to do field training for all of you and any of your inspectors once they've completed the MAFIT trainings that DPH is creating, and everyone's going to get the same education, the same instruction, and hopefully we're going to eliminate some of the inconsistencies that happen and eliminate some of the confusion that exists of, well, how do you interpret this? How do you not? And I was trained to do it this way or that way. So that's our purpose. So recognizing that this is a shift, DPH is requiring all this, right? But if you look closely, the objectives, see that? So one public health professional from each shared service arrangement needs to have completed MAFIT housing and MAFIT food by April of next year, right? So the idea is not, this is not intended to, so the idea, what do we call it? Like a slow learning curve, an easy ramp. Because we know it's going to take time. The MAFIT trainings do have prerequisites, and they do require a fair amount of time in classroom before you get to the field training. And then the field training will be time intensive as well. And we know that all the people that are going to be trained also have jobs that they need to keep doing. So the objectives for this were designed with that in mind, that yes, get trained as soon as you can, but also, nobody's going to get drummed out of the workforce. Nobody's going to be, asked to show their certificate. All departments have to have all certificates within a certain time, this year, right? We've got a lot of time on it. Part of that is because because DPH is still developing those MAFIT live training programs. And they're still working on certifying the field trainers. So, this is, has anybody else heard the expression building the airplane while flying it? This is that, right? I mean, we've been asking for support from the state for a long time to support local public health, and we got funding, we got directions, we've got opportunity for training. And it all came at once, and we're all doing the best we can with that. And again, the three of us are here to kind of help you navigate that. So that means doing the field training, but it also means, making sure that folks are aware of how to register for the trainings. It means that, maybe offering study groups because there are co-requisites for the MAFIT food, for example. I think there's 30 hours of co-requisites for that training, and everybody has to do it. And some people, might find it easier if we schedule a group training and we say, okay, we're all going to sit down and do that online training together and ask each other questions and get through it. We're creative, and we're interested in trying to make it easy for you all so that it happens. So that is that. And I think I just said this piece, right? So right. Train. I heard Isabel, I know you said, we're talking about train. So I want to be clear. Train MA, that's it's a platform, right? It's kind of like do you use iPhone or Apple, or do you use Microsoft? Train is a tool. Train is going to be the place where folks will register for trainings, where their certificates of trainings they completed will be. And the central trainers from DPH are going to offer those MAFIT courses. You'll register for them on Train, and then the hands-on inspectional training will come from us once people have completed those MAFIT courses, and the records of all of that will be kept in Train. So I think, I know that DPH did kind of a mass registration of people onto Train to make it easier. So most folks should have an account and a password. There's not a lot you can do with it quite yet because, again, still building it out. But the LPHI courses will all be migrated to that system and will be available only there. I think March 31st is the deadline. If you've taken LPHI courses and you have certificates from it, go to LPHI now and get those certificates, because while the course content is going to move over, it's not clear that the certificates are actually going to move over. And if you have a certificate, it will be useful for you for, not for the MAFITs necessarily, but for other things, maybe showing that you've already taken this training. So go, I know Sam people have had a little trouble with it. Sam, I think, said she had 3 different LPHI accounts. And so trying to get through the thicket of that and get the certificates, it was a little bit of an effort, but worthwhile, because you want to get them and then just have them. So you and your staffs, and Isabella, maybe you can remind folks to do that later this month. I'm sorry to give people homework, but I promise it's worthwhile. Here's the map that I promised. So here's the state. You can see all sorts of colors. Our group is this dark purple group. We got cut off by the pale green there, so we're not contiguous, but we have let's see, the Metro West Shared Services folks led by Hudson. We have the Greater Boroughs led by Isabella. We have Charles River Health District, which is me and Sam. It's our shared services, same thing, 4 communities. Very similar, except you guys have longer standing relationships than our 4 do. Then we also have Neshoba. So we work with Jim Gareffi, who maybe some of you guys know. And who am I leaving out? Metro West. I have to count on my hands. Metro West, Charles River, Greater Boroughs, Neshoba. Sam, who'd I miss?
The NC8.
Oh, right. Oh, NC8 would, yes, and so it's NC7 for these, and that is a group, it's led by Norwood, so it's Norwood and Dedham and their communities. So we are talking to all of those groups all the time, and our goal is to, you know, we want to kind of cross-pollinate, right? What I hear from NC7 talking about, I might share it because it's pertinent to you guys in Greater Boroughs. So Sam or I might drop Isabella a note and say, hey, they're working on this opioid survey. Maybe you should talk. We are really wanting to foster connections, and we've got our ears open for whatever you're thinking of as training needs. I think that's the other important piece. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to show you a little graphic, but is that while we're there's a lot of focus on these MAFIT trainings that the state is offering. That's not our only offering. Our job is to support local public health and whatever their training needs are. Now I say whatever, but then I have to go back to DPH and get whatever approved, and that doesn't always happen. But for example, we are able to be trained to be trainers for mental health first aid, for CPR, for facilitation. We'll do the stop the bleed. We can do the stop the bleed and the Narcan administration and the like, so that we become another tool in the toolkit for health departments. Maybe we're a resource for MRC. I know, you know, from some of the work, another project I did, and, you know, MRC folks are always looking for trainers. So we'll be available for that. It won't be our primary function. We'll have to, you know, be looking at scheduling, because always the focus will be on those MAFITs and making sure that those inspection trainings, the field trainings are conducted. But we'll have ability to do other things to support y'all as well. And we will continue to listen to what you need. That ends my thing. I can show you one little graphic because I just find it helpful. I'm going to try and share again. Here it is. So this is a schematic for the field training hub, and you can see above are 5 shared services arrangements. To the left are the staff. So here in the peach, that is the entity, right? That's where we're a field training hub. And actually it's 40 communities now because Medway joined Metro West. And green just represents the dollars that come in that we are budgeted to work with to support all of these groups. And then in this box, you can see the what is the work that we have for this fiscal year. The gray are the sort of continuing always administration of the coalition, and then the light peach listed in that box are our deliverables for the year from our contract. So that's how we organize it. And then you can see down here Needham, they are the host agency for this program. So Sam, Rebecca, and I are all employees of Needham. So that's how we're organized. Folks find that helpful sometimes to just see that structure. And now I have
I have a
talked.
question.
I
Sorry.
was gonna say, I'm done. So what questions are there?
Are you going to be sending out these slides to us or
Yes.
no? Oh,
Yes.
okay, great.
Well, I'm gonna send them to Isabella. Isabella will get them to you. Both images. What other questions are there? And Sam and Rebecca, what did I miss? Oh, right. Yes, housing survey. That's another function we have. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, hey, I just wanted to mention that recently, as of last week, the central trainers at the state field training hub, so that's kind of our central hub where we're getting guidance from and instruction at the state, they developed a quick housing survey to give out to all the communities participating in the PHE programs. So I have sent that to Isabella, who will be forwarding it to all of you after this meeting, I believe. It would be so helpful if you all filled it out as best you can, just to give us a little bit more insight into what sort of housing related complaints and inspections you might be doing, and it will really help us tailor our field training for housing to your particular SSA. Even if you get, you know, one housing complaint a year, it would be helpful to know that, just in terms of scope of knowing what we should be prepared for. So that's just my little plug there for that. There's also a question in the same email asking if anyone would be interested in having any of their inspectional staff attend pre-optional or routine pool field training. So we're gonna try to maybe a couple different pools in our regional field training hub before all of the outdoor pools open this year. We're gonna run through an inspection, keep it to some small groups. So we're just looking for how many people might be interested in that.
Right. Thank you, Sam. That's one of the things. So like I said, you know, in addition to those MAFITs, we've got our ears open. This pre-pool thing was Sam's idea. I thought it was a great idea, you know, because new folks come in, new folks are doing it. Rebecca's getting her CPO next week, 2 weeks. You know, so those are the kinds of things we'll be offering. And then also we are a conduit from the state. So if they have questions about the shared services arrangements, they're going to come to us. And then we will funnel it out, and we'll try and make it as easy and digestible as possible and make sure you understand why we are asking for it.
And if I can also just plug that here's a resource for any questions or environmental health inspection support you might need. So we were telling Isabella this, but Rebecca and I would be happy to come out and meet your inspectors in the field if they need any assistance, housing inspections, food inspection, pools, summer camps. You know, right now the MA Fit is really targeting food and housing, but if there's anything outside of that scope, need help with the plan review, anything like that, even if we don't know the answers, we can get you answers. So anything you might want support on, please reach out and we will do our absolute best to accommodate.
Looks like Jen, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Do the MassFit certifications expire? Because I took mine forever ago.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody has to take them. Everybody has to take it.
Yeah. The courses have
no
been
waiver.
updated. And they're also based on all, you know, the updated food code, the updated housing code out there. So they're really meant as programs, as not you take them one time. They're really meant as something that you would take every few years or so, and they're being designed as such. So there's no sort of deadline right now, but they did take into consideration if you had taken the MA Fit previously, all the prerequisites would be the same. You won't have to redo those. So if you took MA Fit food years ago and you went through all those FDA courses, you know, all of those are still good, but actually attending the course and then completing the field trainings, everyone will need to do that again.
And what does the field trainings look like now for food? How many
3 to 5 is what we've been told to plan for. 3 to 5 field inspections, and it will be up to Rebecca and Sam, up to all the field trainers for, some folks will be so skilled that they will get through in 3, but others it might take 5, but it would be 3 to 5 inspections before someone can be certified. Is that right, Sam?
That sounds about right. I would say all of that is not 100% in stone right now. Right now, even these week central trainers are taking out all the field trainers currently. So I think final details are to come, but Carrie, that's about right from all the communication we've gotten from the state.
And I know that we're having a really hard time trying to sign up I'm having a hard time trying to sign up staff for the lead certification. Is there anything new with that? Like, is that going to be like, we need something
Yes.
to happen here, because we just not, there's one
Yes.
only here that's certified. So
Sam.
Yeah, I unfortunately right now the lead determinator certification is not included in the MA Fit housing, but I would say from our field training hub and multiple other field training hubs I've heard, it is the #1 request we've been hearing from all of our communities, and we continue to relay that to the state. So everyone is very aware. I know they announced at the MHOA conference in the fall that CLIP was really ramping up their course offerings, and that was definitely in the plan for this year to get a lot more people through that program. I know a lot of people get held up in the field training portion of that certification. The request has been made by one of the field training hubs. If that's something in the future we could include in our field training hubs, but I would say as of now, we don't have the authority to do that yet.
And I'll
And
just
so the-
add, sorry, let me just add in that the issue was discussed at our most recent field training hub meeting, and they said CLIP had acknowledged the issue and was bringing on staff. So as true as we can trust that to be, they are trying to make some moves on it.
And all these trainings are covered under our regional partnership, correct?
They're free. They're free.
Oh, free. And what about Title V?
Not yet, but on the list, yes. I mean, so first it's got to be MAFIT, it takes a lot of time to develop these. So first it's MAFIT food, MAFIT housing is in development. I think what we heard was coming next would probably be MAFIT camps, but not until the fall. And there are only, it's one of those, questions of how many training developers do they have? At the state, they just have 1 or 2, and are looking for subject matter experts for the others. So it's a time game. I think they're trying to work on speeding it up, but yeah. So until then, continue to conduct Title V inspections as is, and Sam is working with folks in our shared services area, and certainly if we can offer assistance or suggestions from how other folks are tackling it, that's a resource we can offer too.
Well, thank you so much for answering my
Thank you.
question.
And I just want to clarify, it's all inspectors and all, for
All inspectors.
towns. It's not just the shared staff.
No, all inspectors from all towns. This is not a shared services staff issue only. It is for anyone who works in public health. And there are not requirements, there are recommendations for Board of Health members as well. So one of the things we're going to do next, Rebecca's working on a chart for us of all of the positions, and we'll want to come back and talk with Isabella and kind of figure out how to navigate that. We'll have a chart where it'll have each of the positions and the requirements and recommendations that go along with it. And then we can talk about training plans and how to tackle it by position. Yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
Do we have your contacts in case we want to reach out individually, or?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I will
It's
send
on
that.
it. Yeah.
Send that. Great. Thank you.
I have a question about this. In Boylston, so there's a 3-person Board of Health, and then we have Dennis Costello, who's the health agent, and then we have a different person for food inspection. So would we collaborate and send in one, I'm gonna use the report because I forget what you said, but, or how does that work?
Everyone needs to get trained. So,
Okay,
yeah. So your food inspector would need to go through MAFIT if you're gonna, and if someone's doing housing inspections, then they would need to go through the MAFIT housing. And if board members are conducting inspections, they need to do this as well.
okay, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? And I will send out all your information and email addresses as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We've heard about the training hubs, but it's great to, actually see you and hear from you. And, Needham isn't too far. So.
No. And
Thank
we
you so much.
want to come visit. We'll come visit. So thank you for the
Will
time.
do. Of course.
Thank you.
Nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you all.
You
Thanks,
too.
Isabella.
All right, so just to finish up, so we have the approval of the meeting minutes from December 13th. And they were circulated, I think, on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
I move to accept the minutes written for December 13th, 2023.
Does anyone want to second that?
I'll
Oh, you
second.
know what? I don't think I can. I think I ended up sending
You
Ray
weren't
to
there.
that one.
You did.
So
Good,
only
good.
that.
All right. So does anyone want to motion the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes dated December 13th.
Mhm. I will second that. Okay, roll call. Sarah?
I forget what I'm supposed.
Just I.
Sarah Barrett, Boylston,
Chelsea?
Aye.
Okay, and Isabel, I, and then Jen, you weren't there, right?
I abstain.
Okay, perfect. All right, so confirming the future meeting dates, I will send out again a long email with all this information, but it's going to be June 13th, September 12th, and December 12th. So we're gonna switch to Thursdays at 1:30 via Zoom. So I will send that out, and we are going to meet on April 4th at 1:30, and I already sent that calendar invite out.
Perfect.
Any other questions or discussions for today's meeting? All right.
No.
Perfect.
And then you're gonna find out about the towns on under our logo, on our clothing.
Yes, I will ask
Perfect.
right after this. That's a great idea. And then we'll talk more about, how we can spend the money. What do we want to prioritize on that April meeting?
Okay. And you'll send out the contacts for training.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
will send out the new IMA. So just to confirm, so I'm going to send out that updated IMA from Rich once I receive it. Please get that to your town council as soon as possible and send me an update by next Friday. So we can get that process moving. I'll also send the links to the BSAS opioid conference, the MAHB certificate program, and then the training information, and then anything
Thank
else.
you so much. I'm glad you're chair. You're so good at it.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you so much.
Do you
Everyone
want a
have a
motion
great
to
day.
adjourn?
Oh, I
Jen?
have to adjourn, yes. I move to adjourn the meeting at 3:27 p.m.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have Anne Marie, I,
Jen, aye.
Chelsea.
Aye.
Okay, and Isabel, I. Well, thank you so much. It was great to see you all, and I will see you in April.